Let's bring in President and Executive Editor of the Daily Signal, Rob Bluey. Rob, this is that issue that is really confounding Republicans because we went from Roe v. Wade to some states essentially banning, or the 6 months, and then trying to get rid of IVF. And I don't think that's where all Republicans are. I don't want to show disrespect to anybody's view on with life begins it up. But as a political issue, this is confounding them, it seems.
Well, Democrats have made this their #1 issue, and Kamala Harris, of course, has a strong record going back to her time in California of targeting pro-lifers. And so she has known so many issues, flip-flopped or changed her position. On this one, I think we know exactly where she stands. And that, of course, will unite the conservative base and a lot of Republican voters. But it is those swing states, and particularly those independent voters, that will be a critical deciding factor in this election. And so I think that that's why the Democrats will do everything they can to try to exploit this issue and drive divisions among Republicans if they're able to.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about where that could come, because if Republicans, including Mr. Trump, start saying, and I've always said, 15 weeks, which Dobbs put out there, seemed acceptable to a lot of people. At least polls showed that. However, there are a lot of people that voted for President Trump who believe life begins at conception, and they don't want any exceptions to that. And 6 weeks may be, a wide period of time as far as they're concerned. Is there any possibility that Mr. Trump alienates those people, or do they support him overall to the point where that wouldn't keep them from coming out?
Well, even we've seen in the last 24 hours, there certainly are some cracks starting to form in the pro-life movement. Now, that is here in August. By the time you get to November, things could be completely different. And so I think ultimately, at the end of the day, they will see the stark contrast between Kamala Harris, who has targeted pro-lifers, gone after them aggressively, not only in her position as Attorney General, but as Vice President of the United States, a weaponized DOJ that goes after people who are praying at abortion clinics and doing other things that are frankly, within their legal rights and freedom of speech. Donald Trump may take a different position personally than a lot of them believe, but at the end of the day, I think that the choice is clear. You can look at Trump's record as president in the 4 years that he was in office and the kind of policies he pursued versus what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have done over the last 3.5 years.
Nonetheless, he seems to look at that also as a potential threat. There are several states, I think there are 6 of them, that are going to have abortion amendments or ballots on the ballot in some fashion. I believe that includes Arizona. Maybe you know better than I do. There's another swing state as well. Is this him trying to send a message that he would be okay with something outside of 6 weeks to let people know he's not trying to be as extreme as some states are?
Yes, I do think Trump recognizes that there are a group of voters. I mean, if you look at polling on this, there are a group of voters, independent voters, moderate voters, who are obviously persuaded by some of Kamala Harris and the far left's arguments on this particular issue. Donald Trump needs to win those 6 or 7 swing states if he is going to return to the White House. And so he is doing everything he can right now to make sure that his position is clear. I wish Kamala Harris would articulate some policy positions, by the way. She continues to avoid media interviews and the debates that Donald Trump has asked her to do. We might have a better idea and a starker contrast between the 2 candidates if that were to happen. But I think at the heart of your question here, Donald Trump recognizes that this is an issue, if you look at previous referendum that have been on the ballots, has obviously not fared well for Republicans or the conservative or pro-life position. And so I think he's trying to do a balancing act here, pointing to the success he's had on the pro-life issue, while at the same time recognizing the political vulnerabilities.